Well, hello again, everybody. This is Papa Smurf here at MiniWarGaming.com. Today, we're going to duplicate this little building here. And we're going to use this style of wall to do it. Okay? So let's get started. Probably the most important thing of all is to measure. Get it right. On this front right here, we're going to have a piece of wall right here that's 1 inch in width. 1 inch here, 1 inch here. And that's important to work out to the brickwork because each one of these bricks is 1/2 inch in length. 2 of them make 1 inch. So right here, if this window opening was 2 inches exactly, that would perfectly fit the brickwork. And over here, we have 1.5 inches. Well, that works out too. So if you add up 2 inches, 1.5 inches, 1 inch, 1 inch, and 1 inch, we have 6.5 inches in length for our wall. And we're going to build a 5-inch wall in height. On the side, it's very much the same. Again, a 2-inch window. We'll give it 1 inch of wall over here. And we have 1.5 inches of wall over here. And that adds up to 4.5 inches in length, and the height of the wall again is 5 inches. And you got one on either side of the building. So remember that this little piece of wall is 1 inch. Over here it's 1.5. The corresponding wall here, 1 inch, 1.5. They're mirror opposites. So we have to keep that in mind when we measure these. Also, this here, the door always has to be the width to fit one of these little fellas here. And the window has to be the height, so he has just enough clearance so that he can stand behind it and see out of it. We have to keep these little things in mind. Okay, let's start measuring. Once we have our basic wall pieces all cut, the next step is the measurement and the cutting of the windows and the door. Now I've made my marks here. I put in 1 inch, 2 inch, 1, 1.5, 1. This is the door area. This is the window area. This is the long wall we're doing right now. The door is 2.5 in height, so is the window. So we just have to measure up to there, make our cross lines, and make our vertical lines. That's it. See how simple that was? Now the next step is just to measure a little bit across here because there's some masonry here. It's about 3/4 inch in height. The thickness of 3 bricks. 1 line across here. Then all we have to do is cut that out and cut that out, and that'll be the end of this. Okay, let's measure 3/4. That's it. Now next we have to cut these out. It's all done. Now for the other 2 side walls. The side walls are measured in exactly the same way that we did the main front wall here. The window is 2.5 inches in height, just like this window here, just like this doorway. It's all matching. They're all 2.5 inches in height. And as you can see, these marks are here. We just have to chop off 3/4 inch down here, and then we can cut it. That's it. Now we'll cut. And 2 walls are roughly done. Now we just have to measure and cut the 3rd wall, exactly the way that we cut and measured these. Well, all 3 walls are measured and cut. Our next step is to remove the paper off of one side of these walls. As you can see, there's a little bit of a warp in this wall. I'm going to cover that for a while. I got this Warhammer book here. I'm just going to press it down for a little while, see if it makes any difference at all in that warp. And if it doesn't, well, we'll just have to strengthen the walls later on with pieces of wood. I avoided making any marks in this area here because that's supposed to be a piece of stone that goes underneath the window, and that's what it represents. Now we're putting in the last of the vertical and horizontal lines. It didn't take too long to do this. That's what it's going to look like when it's painted. All those nice vertical lines of bricks or blocks stack bonded one on top of another. After being careful to mark in this piece of stone under the window and these soldiers that are standing on top of the window, then the rest is very straightforward, just marking in the 1/4 inch increments. And this one is exactly the same. I'm now marking in where I'm going to put the supports for the roof that I'm going to glue on. And I've chosen to have my roof 3/4 of an inch down from the top. And that's where I've made my marks. Now I'm going to glue pieces on here to support the roof. As always, I like to use 2 types of glue whenever possible because of the benefits that each type gives me. Okay, let's put them on. That's it. I've scribed lines exactly where these walls are going to meet. And right along here, glue some popsicle sticks because there's a little bit of warp in this material. And it is pretty weak. So that's what I'm going to do. Now that the sides are all glued together and this support beam is glued all around the top to support the roof, it's time to cut the roof and glue it on. And the roof, according to measurement, is about 6, according to this, about 6 1/16 of an inch by 4.5. I'm going to cut that now. A tiny little detail is to mark in the ends of these mortar joints right here on the end of the wall. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So far, so good. It's time to start painting those mortar joints. At this point, I'm just going to wait for this glue and paint to dry, especially the paint. And when the paint's dry, I'm going to put a little bit more glue in the corners. They're a little bit weak here. And then after that, I can start painting the red bricks. You gotta love that super glue. It just makes things so much quicker. That's it. Hold it for a few seconds. She's done. I've had to do this because of the warp that was in that material, but it's, as you can see, it's much stronger now. And I'm going to paint those pieces shortly. But before I do that, I'm going to start on the red paint on the brick. Again with the sponge. I like painting with the sponge. It's very fast, it's efficient. I knew a man who painted a maxi van with a sponge in his hand. The entire thing, it took 12 hours. I know this man very well. It was me. There, look at that, very fast. In no time at all, this is painted. Well, we have a little slip of the wrist. I got a little bit of red paint on that ledge there, but that's okay. We can fix that up. So fast, so neat. Yep, coming along just fine. And here, tiny little touch-ups, not much. Just a little bit here, a little bit there. And then we'll get ready for the other paint that's going on the bricks. Very little paint is needed to put the top coating on here, not much at all. Well, at this stage, this building is starting to look really good. To me, anyway. Normally, we can't get away with this. This doesn't look good normally, where you butt one styrofoam sheet against another one like that. However, when it looks like brickwork, well, it looks half decent. See where I had to strengthen the building with wood? But even with that, notice the warp. See the warp in this wall here? And this one too, but this one is worse. Well, when we construct the base, and we put it down on the base like that, all that warp will be taken out. And then it'll look like this. And that's the final thing I have to do, is just to make a base just like this and show you how I do that. This base here is 8 inches by 7.5. So I'm going to go and find me a piece of hardboard like this, and I have a jigsaw. I'm going to cut this piece, and then I'm going to bring it back and show you what I do with it. In this base, we are going for some rounded corners, so what I do is I just take this cup and draw a round, just like that. Now the rest is up to me and the jigsaw. Well, we spent some time at the jigsaw, and we had a little cut here. But what I do next is, to give it a sculptured look, I trim it all along here to shave it down. And that's all I'll do. Just cutting it like this, shaving it. Give it that sculptured look. Okay, and that's the base. Now I have to prepare it a little bit. That's your leading edge, right there. That's where it'll be, and that's where we're going to glue the bottom down in a straight line. That's how we take out the warp. We'll work on it. We'll get this square. I measured and drew my lines. These are the perimeters of the house. Now the house doesn't actually fit this because it's a little bit warped on the bottom, but we'll make it. When we glue it on here, it'll be right on there, and then all the warps will be taken out. I'm not using any super glue this time. And there's a reason for that. Normally I do use super glue, and it bonds instantly, but on the bottom here all we have is styrofoam, and the super glue would just eat that. On this model over here, you can see the wood. See the wood that's along the bottom in there? That's what I glued the super glue to. I put it on the wood and I put it on the base. Wood to wood, no problem. But on the bottom of styrofoam, I would just melt it, eat it. Because of that, this is going to take longer to bond. So what I'm going to have to do is put this bead of glue down and just sort of sit here and hold it for a while. I mean, for quite a while. A while until it bonds. Good stuff once it's dry. Oh, this is the most excellent stuff. It just doesn't dry right away. I'm going to have to hold it here for a little while till it sets. Well, the glue has set, and I'm very, very happy with the results. Those walls are nice and straight and level and plumb, and they're just great. To finish off this little model, I originally was thinking of putting some gravel and sand and flock and all that stuff, but now I've changed my mind. I'm just going to paint it kind of a charcoal gray just to finish it off. And that's what you'll see me doing. Well, there it is. I'm done as far as I'm going to go with it. And you know, the interesting thing that I found out by working this material, this foam board, is that when you peel the paper off of one side, it weakens the material, so it tends to have a warp in it. And then when you paint it and the material is wet, and then when the paint is drying, then it really wants to warp it out. However, look at the back there. See how nice and straight this wall is? Simply by gluing on a popsicle stick at the back and gluing the wall to the base in a nice straight line, all the warp was taken out of the building and the walls. Now, basic though this building is, if you've picked up any tips or techniques from watching me build it, and you would like to see more of my videos, then subscribe. Subscribe to Papa Smurf at MiniWarGaming.com. Thank you, and have a nice day.